Hello everybody, it's Acid Rain from First Sun again with another tutorial on FL Studio. Today we're going to be looking at something called tape stops, and there are two different ways that you can achieve a tape stop. One of those ways is by the use of Illform's dBlueTapeStop VST, which is free, and another way is stock through FL Studio's plugin called Gross Beat, and we're going to do both of them today, and I'm going to show you the difference between the two. I have a little track here that I've just kind of played out on a MIDI keyboard to give you an example of how these effects will change the piece that we've got so far. So let's take a listen to what we have right now. Nothing special, but what we're going to do is we're going to tape stop this. It's going to be really quick, really easy, and hopefully this will help you get your sounds where you want them. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, if you haven't already done so, when you add a track or an instrument in FL Studio, eventually you're going to add that track to the mixer. If you haven't done that, then you need to go ahead and up here on the top you need to click the step sequencer icon and pick the instrument that you want to tape stop. If you want to tape stop the master track, then I'll also show you how to do that as well. But for this, we're just going to tape stop this intro rhythm here, which is a massive plugin, and we're going to just select it and then add it here into our mixer. So you're going to right click, link selected tracks to this track, and that brings that instrument to this track on the mixer. So I have a fruity limiter here, which is just doing some side chaining. Don't worry about that. You don't need to have the limiter on your track. So over here on the right is where you can add different effects. And so you're going to want to click this little down arrow and go to select, and you're going to look for Gross Beat. So whoops, that's the wrong one. Let's try that again. Gross Beat. There we go. Okay, and so on Gross Beat, this is fairly simple and can be modified really easily. And if I remember correctly, yes, it's basic 10. So what you're going to see here is a lot of different steps that you can choose from, but basic 10 is pretty much what we want to use. And so since we've applied this to the effects list on the instrument for our pad, if we play that now, so you can see where the stop is taking control over that instrument, and it's making the track sound as if it were tape stopping. So what can we do to make that a little bit more automated sounding, a little bit more fluid? So what we can do is we can get rid of the first point, which I just did, and then you're going to right click on the second point here and change that to a single curve, and you're going to leave it just about here, and you're going to bring the second dot in the middle up pretty close to the first major grid. And so what you should get now is something like this. Now, there's something that you need to understand about Gross Beat is that it is a step sequencer. Pretty much the way it works is that for every beat it checks to see if any of these points have been changed, and if those points have been changed, it makes the appropriate adjustment to the sound and then proceeds to the next part, which would be the next step, to see if there's any changes, and we have no changes. Once all those steps are completed, it loops back over and does it again. So it's not the best method for doing tape stops, especially single tape stops, but it's great for glitching. So I use it a little bit in a few of my tracks, but not as often as I use the tape stop from L-Formed, which is it's kind of a one-off tape stop, and it sounds really, really good. So just a reminder that this is mainly used for glitching, and if you want every, say, third beat out of each bar to be glitched or to be tape stopped, this is a great way to do that. However, if you're just looking for something along the lines of a one-off tape stop, let's see if I can show you here in another track. Okay, so here's another track that I've been working on, and there's a tape stop here. And this uses the L-Formed tape stop, and this is kind of what it sounds like. So you get that really good stop effect right there, and you can see where it's changing the entire. I added this to the master track, so it affected everything and kind of slowed it down really quickly and brought me straight into the drop, which is a dubstep drop. So let's listen one more time. So you can hear it distinctively throughout the track. So what we're going to do is we're going to go right back into our old track, and what we're going to do now is we're going to go right back into the mixer, and we're going to add dBlueTapeStop. And this is what you should get. 3 little switches, 3 little knobs here. That's it. Now if you don't have dBlueTapeStop, here's the website to get it. lformed.org/plugins. And you're going to want to scroll down until you see dBlueTapeStop.zip. You're going to grab that, put that in your VST plugins folder. Make sure that you do a search for new plugins on FL Studio, which I'm sure you know how to do. And now what we're going to do is we're going to get a nice good one-off tape stop here in this instrument. And so the way we're going to achieve this is I'm first going to explain to you what these 2 knobs do. I normally don't use the D-click, so for this tutorial we're just going to go over the trigger and the slowdown. Now the trigger itself is basically when you turn it up, when you get past the halfway mark, that says okay, initiate the slowdown. And then over here on the slowdown it says, okay, well, how fast do you want the slow that sounds very odd, but how fast do you want the slow to occur? Do you want it to be a really fast tape stop? Do you want it to be a kind of a slow power down tape stop? Essentially, the more you move the slowdown up, the faster it slows down. If you bring it all the way to the bottom, then it uses the least amount of slowdown time possible. And so I'll turn the trigger off, and then I'll play the track, and then leave the slowdown to 0 and trigger it, and you'll be able to see. So you can see by using the trigger with a slowdown of 0 how slow it is to slow down the track. So what I normally do if I want something that's either leading into a new rhythm, a new area in the track that is completely different, or leading into a drop, I bring that to about 5. Either 5 or 10. And then we're going to try it again with 10. Normally I use 10, so let's try it with 10. And again. And one more time. So you can really hear the slowdown on the tape stop and how it works really well for tracks. So the best way to do this is to create, once you have your slowdown timing, I would suggest experimenting with your time a little bit and get it to where you want it, and manually trigger in your track when you want the tape stop to go. Once you've got the slowdown corrected and have it where you want it, then you're going to basically just right click on the trigger knob and create an automation clip here and bring it into the playlist editor. And what I do to make this, to keep this from being an extremely big part of the playlist, is I'll just give it another notch here. I'll give it another dot, and then I'll come to the end of the track and delete the one at the very end. And what that will do is it'll have it set to where you just have to deal with this little area. And so now that we have an idea of how slow we want everything to be, which mine is at 10, we're going to pick an area in the track that we want it to slow down. I guess here is a great spot. And a good way, a good practice for everything is when you have these events that you put into your playlist editor. A really good method is to leave it off, then trigger it like this, and all you need to do for this is basically it needs to be above 50% for it to trigger. We're going to go ahead and put it at 100%, and then it's going to turn itself back off here later in the playlist editor. I do this on purpose so that I know basically when the event is going to occur and what happens afterwards. So you basically don't want to have a dot here and get rid of the first dot, or turn the effect on and then turn it off, because what will happen is it will assume that everything before the track is also being tape stopped. So if your entire track tape stops, that's why you need to turn the effect off first and then turn it on when you need to use it, and then turn it back off again when you're finished using it. Otherwise, it'll apply everything to it'll apply that tape stop to everything in your playlist editor, and you don't want that. So I'm just going to put it here. I guess this is a great spot, and play through the track. I'll move it forward a little bit just for the sake of time, and play through the track and let you hear. See there where it turned back on again. So with a little bit of fine tweaking, you can get it to sound however you want it to sound. Normally you would put a tape stop at the end of your at the end of an instrument's performance in the playlist editor and then move on to something else. But essentially that is how you will use the dBlue tape stop. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. It's a little bit long, but I'm glad that I've been able to show you in depth of how you can achieve a tape stop effect using Ilform's dBlue tape stop VST and grow speed.